Adnan Belushi Podcast. Adnan Belushi Podcast. Here we go.
Adnan Belushi Conversation.
For some reason, when it comes to my boy, I'm much more tougher on him than my girls, you know. It's almost like I want to take him to the gym and beat him up, you know, like that kind of energy, you know.
Yeah.
And in a fun way, but also in a way to trying to get them challenged or get them going, or it's something. I don't know what it is, but it's
boys need that. Physiologically speaking, men's brains are different, much to the culture's chagrin. And so when it comes to what it takes to grow and what it takes to learn and what it takes to show a boy what it means to be a man, it is a harsher reality. It is a more difficult, and I'm not saying women don't have their challenges, but it's a more arbitrarily difficult thing. Whereas for females, their body is going to present them most of the most difficult and harsh challenges they'll face in their life. And it's not arbitrary. They don't really have a say in when they become young women or you know, becoming pregnant and having babies and taking care of them and going through menopause. Those are not arbitrary. They happen at a physiological level for a woman. Whereas a boy becoming a man, it's almost like an arbitrary external process, you know, because there's no part of his body that's like, oh, hey, by the way, today you're a man. So, and so you kind of go through that as a father. It being I say this about my son. He has a really fiery spirit. His middle name is Aiden, which means little fire in Gaelic. He's all over the place all the time. You know, I remember writing in a letter that I wrote to him. I write to my sons so that as they grow, someday as adults, they'll get to see the struggles their dad went through and know, hey, I did the best I knew, so I hope you can do better. But I wrote to him, I don't mind being the stone in your life that teaches you how to concentrate that power, because you need that. A fire can spread throughout the woods, but if a fire is going to forge something, if it's going to be powerful and hot, it needs something to confine it. And I see that when I'm teaching my boys. I have to be the rock that they can't go past. I have to be the anchor that keeps them strong in their life and they know they can always come back to, while also at the same time, as you know, tempering that with fun and compassion and joy, so that I'm not just a hard ass all the time. I'm actually engaging them where they're at. So being a father, like I said, it's the most challenging thing. It's hard to balance those two things.
It is, and I also feel like it's also an exciting thing to be a dad, in the sense that there has never been a time in this world being that rock for your boys and for your girls has become ever as important as it is in this time, right? It's one thing to raise kids to fully form into their characteristics that they have inherited through their genes, thousands of characteristics. Mm-hmm. And it's another thing to fight through the confusion that they've been subjected to, right? Whether it's a feminism type of raising a boy, whether it's a masculine type of raising a girl, right? Yeah, we all live in liberal societies, and there are a lot of, you know, do whatever feels right and you accept and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's, you know, I feel excited that I am confident in the clear characteristics and roles of a male and a female, and giving that with confidence to my son. You know, this is what it means to be a boy, and this is what it means to be a man, and these are the roles, and I feel confident in saying to my kids that boys and girls are different. Whereas in a lot of places, like, we might be seen as far-right extremists and Trump supporters, right? It's insane. It's like, no, these are just facts and biology, right?
Right.
So it's really nice to live in a reality. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with this, of carrying this truth and speaking this truth where in a lot of places that people would really clamp you down. So I feel excited as well to be that rock and be that sort of guidance and do things differently. It's don't follow the conventional pathway of parenting. And I said to my kids, hey, don't go to university if you don't really need to go and learn a skill that is, taught at universities. If you don't need to, don't do it. I'd give you $200,000 instead. Go start a business. If that's, if you have that skill, if you want to do that skill, right? And it's okay to be a teacher, or it's okay in this world of everybody wanting to be in front of the camera. It's okay to just have an ordinary job. It's okay to be a plumber. It's okay to not listen to these people who say, oh, we don't need men in the world and we don't need, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we need to bring back some respect in society and the roles that, women carry, mothers carry, fathers carry, boys carry, and weed out that nonsense and bring clarity back to, hey, this is your reality. And this is the way that you can see the world. And this is how you can consume things. And this is how you can make sense of the world. This is how you can contribute in the world. And I have really lots of crazy ideas that I will invest into as a father. For example, like I have, I'm starting to build this course. When you start 14, 15, in New Zealand, you become an adult when you're 18. So I want to build this course for my kids that I will take them through series of experiences and case studies and experiments where they get to learn how to be an adult. This is how you exercise your rights. This is how you start a business. This is how you buy a house. This is how you live in a house, how you care for a house. And, relationships and addictions and all the worst things that can happen to you and how you respond to it. And Trevor Fortner's work around, how you deal with high pressure situations, how you, react, and your anxiety and your depression. Is it seasonal or is it medical? And all that stuff is so much important, valuable knowledge that I want to bestow on my kids that I have learned for someone who's raised himself without his father being around, all my teenage years, right? And the other cool idea I have is, like creating some kind of like, a father version of an artificial intelligent agent, right? So the kids feel like, okay, I can talk to dad in a very different way without dad being there. So it's almost like I can take an AI agent and say, listen to all my podcasts, take all my knowledge, create my voice, create my face, create my ideas, and give it to my kids. Right? So yeah, fatherhood, man, it's challenging, but it's also exciting, right? And also I don't know about you, but one of the things that I experience with fatherhood is that I confront the thought of like mortality as well. Like, what happened if I lose my kids? What happened if this happens? What happened if that happens? I find it interesting that my brain automatically processes and imagines those scenarios in a very raw format and brings me peace. It's almost like you have to, confront that elephant in the room, and then it allows you to be truthful to the reality that you're engaging in, but at the same time, I'm a single dad and I have my kids every other week, and I have to juggle working late nights and all that stuff. Late at night, I am exhausted, tired, and I'm a very different person when I'm tired compared to in the morning when I'm really, really fresh, right? So I like to also be very raw and honest with my kids about, Trevor told me off to talk to your kids like you're not perfect.
Right.
And that's not what I mean. It's, I think, it's fun for kids to understand and not confuse the kids about, your parenting style might be inconsistent, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
Alex,
Yep.
welcome to the show. Welcome to the Adnan Belushi podcast. It's fun that we've started the conversation on something really cool. Just quickly tell the audience, a little bit about yourself. How did you end up at Everyday Spy? How you work with, incredible people like Andrew Bustamante and Trevor Fortner and all of your colleagues.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I'm really excited to be here. My name's Coach Alex VanHouten. I am an exercise scientist and a faith-based health coach, and I get to work with all sorts of people from all over the world, and it's been quite the adventure to help people make the most out of the body they've been given. And so Andrew Bustamante, he and I actually met 8 years ago now, before Everyday Spy was very popular, and we actually met on a podcast talking about fatherhood and fitness. And in my career, I've had the opportunity to train people for over 20 years. And he was one of the individuals that early on, I'd say early on, I guess, I was training for 10 years at that point. I had the opportunity to work with him. And I remember him saying to me, Alex, when I left the CIA, I was very down on the fitness industry because everybody seemed to be these, 20-year-olds taking steroids, telling people to take supplements and stuff. And I got to work with actual exercise physiologists who knew my body, understood what I needed, and helped me bear that out scientifically, but also applicably to create a mission for myself and take good care of myself. He's like, I've found that in you. So I'm really excited to work with you. So I got to work with him. I got to work with his wife, Jihi, such a wonderful lady. And we worked together for several years. And then he said, hey, my audience is asking a lot of questions about exercise and nutrition, and would you be willing to take your expertise and not just in our coaching relationship, but bring that to our business? And so that's how I got to work with Everyday Spy as an exercise scientist. And we run Spy Fit challenges, we do individual coaching, we work really hard to help individuals who are breaking barriers with Everyday Spy to take their bodies and make the most out of it.
Oh man, what an exciting time to kind of, live in this world of understanding your body through podcasts and people like yourself that actually want to come and help and make a difference. And, I have learned so much from just listening to Joe Rogan about my body and how to look after my body and break through the like you said, the nonsense that's out there that you're being fed, whether it's advertising or politics or this gym folks on steroids, right? Breaking through that. And I always make this fun challenge to my friends who get tired of me mentioning Joe Rogan all the time as a reference point. And I always say, hey, listen, if you do everything that Joe Rogan does in terms of just general health advice that he gives to people, you do that for 12 months. And if your health does not improve, I give you $1 million, right? Because the truth is, there's a lot of great information in the stuff that you do and you provide in these courses. They actually change people's lives, and you get to listen from people like Gary Brecka, who provide their morning routines about the hydrogen tablets they drop in the water, and the cold plunges they do, and the diet that they eat and the food that they eat, right? Your body is like your temple, and if you can't understand it spiritually, physically, biologically, you're in a lot of trouble. And I have to admit, like I'm also been someone that was never into fitness, grew up poor, never had access to that information. And I got into it when I was like 36, 37. I was like, oh my God, this is like, this has changed my life. And I understand the body so much more. I appreciate the body. I can see the body. I started watching mixed martial arts, and I was like, oh my God, guys can do these things to their body. It is incredible. Just, I'm curious, what is faith-based coaching when it comes to exercise? What does that look like?
Yeah, so one of my areas of research and interest is in the way our belief changes how our body physiologically adapts to something. I just saw another example of it in the exercise world. They took power lifters and they gave some of them a peptide that improves their strength. You could think of that as an anabolic steroid. And then they gave a group of power lifters a sugar pill and told them that it was a breakthrough peptide that worked way better than steroids to improve their strength. And what was crazy is both groups grew significantly in their 1 rep max for the major lifts, bench press, squat, clean and jerk, right? And so they were able to grow significantly in these major lifts, and there was no difference. The peptide actually did create a biochemical difference in the body. However, the placebo didn't do anything. It's a sugar pill.
Yeah.
It didn't actually change the body at all. But it was the belief of the powerlifter that now they had some sort of ergogenic aid that was going to help them break their plateaus and grow them and support their bones and their tendons and their ligaments and their joints. And so this is paramountly important to me that we understand there is a belief aspect to making the most out of the body we have, right? Another example would be if I'm running on a treadmill, and I hate running on a treadmill because, it's like being on a hamster wheel, and I don't get to enjoy I don't get to enjoy nature. I'm not moving very well. There's actually a biomechanical difference between how you run on the road and how you use your glutes versus running on a treadmill where you're using mostly hip flexors, but we could talk about that later. But let's say I'm running on a treadmill and I hate it. But I'm running on a treadmill because it's good for me and they say I should, and I'm getting my cardio in and I got to burn some calories and all this stuff. I'm running on a treadmill. The physiological difference between me running on a treadmill and me going out into nature where I enjoy myself and getting to go for a run, it's the same activity, but physiologically the impact on me is different, right? And so when we talk about faith-based health coaching, what I want individuals to understand, no matter where your walk of faith is, I'm Christian. I'm very happy to talk about Jesus and what that means to me and whatnot. But no matter what your faith background is, it's so important to understand in health and fitness that what you believe about what you're doing with your body and what you believe about why you're doing it, that significantly impacts the effect of exercise, nutrition, recovery processes. It significantly impacts your life to understand what you believe about your body. And so for me, that's something that I'm extremely passionate about in working with my clients, and that really makes a big difference in the way that I approach our programs and the way that I approach applying the science of nutrition and exercise to their life.
Man, that is so powerful. I can feel my brain changing in real time as I listen to you, because a lot of the stuff that you're saying is stuff that I already live in that reality, right? And I feel like a lot of these podcasts and information that's out there, that's essentially what they're doing. They're trying to give you these new beliefs, these new faiths that you can have, right? Mm-hmm. And a funny example I can bring up is peptides. This whole last week, it's everything I go online, it's peptides. I call my friends, I have WhatsApp groups, and we always talk about like what is everyone listening to on podcast. And because I have a podcast, they're always giving me, like, oh, these guys, this guy's talking about this on his podcast. Everything has been about peptides to a point where conversations have evolved into, hey, you want to do TRT? Maybe you should not do TRT and you should do peptides. It's like, well, so I can see in real time someone's trying to change my beliefs, my faith, and my connection point to my body. And my focus, I'm stepping into 40s. In July, I turn 40. And I am starting to think a lot about de-aging a lot of my body by the time I get to 50. So my body is strong like a 30-year-old, and then I can build and maintain that muscle and activity that I'd like until I'm 70. But like someone like RFK Jr., he's like fit and pumped. I'm like, I want to be like that guy. That's my faith. That's my belief, right? And that is so powerful that, and it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't matter what your faith is, whether it's a God or a religion. But faith is so powerful. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast. I can't remember the name of the guest, and he said 99.9% of people who survive from suicidal thoughts is faith. Their belief, their faith, their connection point to like what are they, how they create meaning to life is what gets them out of those thought patterns.
Yeah.
So that faith-based coaching, I think is probably the starting point.
It has to be. So I'll use a concrete example. Okay. So I've been in the training industry for over 20 years. If you ask somebody, why are we going to start personal training? What's the goal? What are we going to do? And back when I didn't even know anything, I wasn't a dad, I wasn't a husband, I wasn't a business owner. I was just training people in the gym because I like lifting weights, right? Back before all that, you still ask, what are your goals? What are you working toward, right? And so somebody might say, I want to lose 20 pounds. Like, great. So as a new personal trainer, I'm thinking, okay, we got to lift these weights, we got to get this caloric deficit, we got to do this cardio, and so I would build my perfect program, right? And I was very diligent. I was a very intelligent young trainer studying chemical engineering. I'm doing all this stuff, and I present this client with this perfect program. As far as I can make it, it's a perfect program, right? And then we work out together. 3 days a week we're together. 2 days a week they got to do their homework. They've got to eat these things. They got to sleep, and they didn't do any of it. You're like, what the heck? Like, you just got to run the play. You just got to do the thing. Because as a young trainer, you think that the reason somebody's not doing what they know is good for them is just because they don't know how. But that's not it. That's not it at all. Why do you want to lose 20 pounds? If you want to lose 20 pounds because you want to see the number on the scale change, if you want to lose 20 pounds because you want to fit into a pair of pants, okay. Those aren't deep enough goals to drive you to do things that are hard to do. Those aren't deep enough goals for you to change your behaviors on the days when you just don't feel like it. Those aren't deep enough goals to keep you from diving into the pan of brownies at 7 p.m. They're just not. They're not deep enough. I want to lose 20 pounds. Whatever. But when a woman says to a young trainer, my husband had an affair. I feel like it's because I'm not attractive enough. And I really have let myself go since having babies. And I've forgiven him, but I need to get in shape. That's a much deeper goal. Now, I'm not saying it's the right goal, but it's a much deeper goal. And I've seen women kick their butt to try to get their face and body and all that stuff to appear the way they think they need to appear, right? And so in faith-based health coaching, I want to go to the deepest levels of your identity as to why we're going to make changes. And if you've got that solid, then we can make the perfect plan and program and move forward, right? But as an example, you and I were talking about fatherhood, right? So a common question I get from dads is, hey, I know I need to be working out and stuff, but how do I justify taking time away from my kids in order to find the time to exercise? Right? Well, if at the core of my belief, I would like to lose 20 pounds so I can have a six-pack and look, sexier to my wife, right? That's not a very deep goal. It really isn't. I mean, that's nice. There's a deep emotional connection there, right? But that feels like it's at odds with being a good dad, right? But if I understand that I have two boys, they're very athletic kids. I love playing with them, throwing them up in the air and tickling them and wrestling them. I got punched in the guts just before this, and it was great. Like we have a great relationship, wrestling and tussling. And you're raising a boy, you understand the more physical, the better, right? And they're running on the soccer field and they're playing basketball, right? if I understand that one of the things that I want to be in my life, one of my identities, is a good father, and I see that my health and fitness is directly related to whether or not I can execute that mission. When I understand that, it's not taking time away from my kids to go lift weights. It's being optimally, hopefully, I'm optimally applied in my weight training, so I don't have to do 10 hours a week. I can do 3 and it still has the same results, right? But if I understand that, I'm not taking 3 hours a week from my kids so that I can lose 20 pounds and look pretty. I'm taking 3 hours a week to invest in good fatherhood so that my body is not an impediment to that process. And that's what faith-based coaching is about, is digging down into the things that we believe and understand are our most important missions in life, and aligning our health and fitness practice to accomplish those things and make the most out of the body we've been given.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think the thing I would like to add is also not about trying to focus too much on finding a meaningful faith that drives your physical exercise goals, but it's also creating a framework that allows for that faith to evolve. There's always new things happening in life and new ideas coming. So you can it's almost like a bank, and you can just keep adding more to it, right? And, like for me, it's about de-aging. Why do I want to de-age? Is so I can be more physical in my later age. I want to live longer. I can be more physical with my grandkids like I was with my kids. It can be lots of other things. And I think once you figure out a framework that is sustainable and strong and that can drive your faith continually, then I think the faith that you have right now is not the end-all, be-all of your exercise, and you've achieved that goal, so you're going to stop. It's actually allows you to evolve that faith.
That's right. It's a part of the journey.
It is. And once you figure that out, the next goal is, and for me, it was, I did a lot of work mentally to get rid of the word motivation and replace that word with discipline, right? Because I used to be a motivation-based exercise type of person. It's like, I don't feel like it today. I'm going to have a cheat day. Whereas I'm like, no, this is like breathing. This is like I have to, it doesn't matter how I feel. Yes, there's a little bit of science behind making sure you have the right body and you're warmed up and you've got the right diet and whatnot to exercise. But I feel like, and I teach this to my kids. I'm like, hey, it doesn't matter how you feel. If you don't want to go to school, that's not the point. You need to go and do it. And I show my son Lewis Hamilton racing in a car, driving it at 300 kilometers an hour with a big migraine and a head cold, but he still wants to show up and do it because it's about lots of other things. So discipline over motivation, I feel like, is the next step. Once you have that faith sorted, which kind of drives your mission, then it's like, make sure discipline's more important than motivation.
Yeah. Motivation is a dime a dozen. Motivation is a couple cups of coffee away, right? But discipline is something that you can rest in. Discipline is about just who you are and what you do, because you said you were going to do it. I built those into. This is actually a very difficult thing to write about. So I wrote a book called Faithful Fitness, which takes people through a 40-day journey to align their faith and their fitness practice, right? And the goal of this is to show them how the discipline of approaching this every day, and we go through 4 disciplines: integrity, grit, growth, and awe. These are things that we practice on a daily basis, that when you do approach these things, you see change over time, because in your body, what's so cool about the body is your body becomes what you consistently practice. So that those genetic differences you were talking about, right? All the way down to the level of our DNA, we have the genes, we have all this potential wrapped up in there. But what we do and the stressors we face tell those genes whether to be expressed or not. It's called methylation. That's turning on a gene so that it actually is expressed, or acylation, turning off a gene because we're not going to express that gene. And whether or not who we are, what we're capable of, how all the way down to how big our muscles actually are, right? How we have a potential for how large those muscles can be. And through hypertrophy training, hyper meaning over, trophy meaning growth, hypertrophy training, a certain stressor that you apply to the muscles, you signal to the genes, oh, these muscles aren't quite large enough. Can we get any bigger? Can we get a little more fluid in here because this guy's lifting heavy weights sometimes? Can we get any more? Can we get any more density in the fibers of our tendons because this guy's jumping over small toddlers in a single bound, for instance? Or when I work with elite operators, I'm trying to run faster. Or I'm trying to jump higher. I'm trying to do this stuff without energy. What's that look like, right? What we're doing is we're applying the stressors to the body that signal those genes to turn on or to turn off. And that's the study of epigenetics is actually where the science comes through there. But the issue with that is that's a disciplinary process.
Yeah.
Motivation's not going to do that for somebody because our genes respond to consistent stressors and motivation's fleeting. So I could be really motivated for 3 weeks at the very beginning of the year to lose 20 pounds, right? But if I make it a discipline in my life that I'm going to be a good dad, and one of the things that I believe about being a good dad is that I'm physically capable of being there for my kids, protecting my family, being a strong example of what it looks like to have my life all put together, for my kids, because they're going to grow up doing what I do, not what I say, right? If I have that, then the discipline of coming back to that every day changes my body and grows and builds into me what potential was there, but allows it to manifest.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna read that book, and I'm gonna put the link in the podcast description for you guys to access it, because I think it's a very important book to read to kind of find that alignment, right? It's one of the things that I did with hacking my motivation and bringing some kind of discipline. And I think one of the traps that people find themselves is like when they go into a new program, they're excited because they're going to get a new voice to talk to, a new person to interact with, and also get some new exercises, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to do things that I don't know how to do.
Right.
I feel like the way that I've hacked that is try and stick to the same exercises that you do, and you almost train your body to get used to doing those exercises. So for me, it was just like kettlebell. I'll do a warm-up, then I'll do a one-arm swing, I'll do a clean and press, I'll do a Reganet rows, then I'll do windmills, right?
Yeah,
and I'll just stick to that. And I'll just do those. And yes, it's always fun to kind of, sit down with an expert and really crack into something specific you want to do. But my fallback's always a kettlebell and a few exercises and 45 minutes a day. And that's it.
I would call that your default.
My default.
Think of that as
70
your default.
pounds. Yeah. 70 pounds kettlebell, that's my default. That's what I always fall down to, right? Even if I'm bored, I'm like, I'll do a kettlebell workout, right? And that gives me, a little bit of shoulders, a little bit of muscle. It gives me, I do squats with the kettlebells as well. So I'm working my full body, right?
Yeah.
And I'm getting my push-ups. I'm all of that stuff, right? So I feel like training your body to do something specific, it's something that the body knows, it's familiar with, and the genes actually have, and the cells have that data. The nervous system has that information. It's a much more fun way to kind of do your workouts, and your body actually responds to it. Well, one of the things that I'm very interested in.
Can I address that though? Yeah. I want to interrupt your question, but it's such a good thought. I actually coach people to do this. So in training, so like the individual coaching I do through Everyday Spy, in training, the reason people work with me is because I'm helping them to develop all of their fitness abilities. Yeah. And we are also cultivating that default that you're talking about. So you have a process of training. Training means I'm applying adaptive stressors so that things that you couldn't do before are within your capability now, right? That's what that means. And there's a process in exercise science to doing that. Sometimes you got to get people out of their comfort zone doing things they've never done before. And that's that's important, that allows them to develop different fitness abilities, right? And then in the process, you're also helping them to create and cultivate a habit of exercising regularly, and people will naturally cling on to specific modalities. Like, I like to run. I'm not a great runner, but I like to run, right?
Yeah.
And that's always going to be a part of what I do and who I am, and it's good for me. There's a number of reasons for that, right? As long as the good Lord lets me, I can run, right? Now that said, I run, and I will run if I'm traveling. I will run if I'm getting over being sick. I will run if I've had a stupid day and I just need to clear my head. I'll go for a run, right? And so running is a default for me. But in training, what you learn is there's different things you can train that will help you make the most out of your body. So if my knee starts to hurt, for instance, then it's an indication that there are muscles in my body that are not supporting the knee properly. Maybe I'm running too much, but it's also possible that I'm just sitting too much and my poor glutes have not activated as much. And so when I go for my run, my knee's under more stress. And so what we do in training is we address those things that are keeping us from doing the default we enjoy. And so what's cool for you is you've already found a place in your life where you have found a default that you like and that works for you, which is great.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of power and a lot of potential in that. However, the mistake many people make, I don't know if you're making this mistake, but this happens in fitness, is once they've found that default, they don't deviate. They don't train anything else. And what happens in their body is they start to develop imbalances because their default can't possibly handle everything. So if all I ever did was run, I might have strong legs, I might have a strong heart, right? But my lats, they're muscles back here in my back, they connect from your humerus, go all the way down to your rector spinae, down in your spine, and your lats keep you upright. They support your back. Right? And if I don't train that, if I just run, then what happens over time is my posture starts to reflect running. My shoulders fall forward, my chest caves in, I start getting pain in my neck. I might even start getting pain in my lower back because I've neglected a very important muscle because my default missed it. Right. And so in this way, this is why, working with Everyday Spy is so powerful and important, is because people will come, we can develop a powerful default consistency, which is great. Like that's way better than the general population's doing with regard to exercise. Right. But then taking those operators who are willing to do the work and understand how to do it and why to do it and what they enjoy and what their body responds well to, and then helping them to be able to maintain that. Because in intelligent training looks at the gaps and helps you to fill those in over time. So I'm so glad you brought that up, but I wanted to speak to that just in case anybody was listening who's like, okay, kettlebells, let's do it. That's working for Adnan. That's good, but Adnan also needs those opportunities to fill in gaps there too.
Yeah. My problem was that I never had a default. So I would always bounce around from one person to another person and go, this guy, I will believe in Alex for 3 months and this is how Alex does it. And then in 3 months, I'm going to go believe somebody else. So I was so much into this mindset of constantly doing new programs that I never had a belief system.
Gosh, there's so many people who's there right now. There's so many people who's there. I'm so glad you're being honest about that.
And that's why I felt like finding peace with a default thing is a good place to be, a fallback, and always in that sort of mode. And then you can always do programs on top. And I found that when I discovered, because I'm a huge Lewis Hamilton fan. Lewis Hamilton has a physio, Angela Cullen, who. I'm someone, when I look at high-performing teams, my first question is, who are the people behind? What's their philosophy? How they think about this? Why this guy keeps winning championship after championship, right? So that's always my mindset. So I find Angela Cullen, and then I learned that Angela Cullen works for a company, a Finnish company out of Finland called Hinsta Performance. Hinsta Performance was created by Aki Hinsta, and he became the provider of physios to most Formula One drivers. And his philosophy was well-being-based high performance. So I did a course with Hinsta Performance, and this course essentially taught me a wheel philosophy, that in the middle is your faith of why and your purpose and why you want to do all of this stuff. And the wheel is made of 6 elements: exercise, food, energy, sleep, mental energy, all that stuff, right? And so I learned that I can create a default that all of these things function in my reality.
Yes.
So the next phase that I want to talk about is that faith, discipline, and then how all of this fits in my reality. My reality as a podcaster doing this full time, I want to wake up, I want to get my body going, cold plunge, I want to do my workout, I want to heat my body for the whole day, I want to get my vocals going, I want to write jokes, I want to read up on Alex, I want to get my brain going, I want to get my vocals going, I want to be in the studio at 11 o'clock, I want to do my output, my recordings and everything, and then I want to get productive, I want to actually sit in the post-production studio, I want to push all of this stuff out, I want to do 45 minutes of business, I want to pick up my kids, I want to do the evening with them, and then, it's my bedtime routine, right? So that's my wheel. That's kind of like, my default, right? And then on top of that, I go, okay, I'm going to find some time to do some of the Gary Brecka stuff, maybe try the hydrogen H2 tablets. I want to try and do some of the DNA analysis and understand my DNA architecture and see where I can, add a bit more to this, right? So I've kind of ended up with that, and I feel like I'm at peace with it, that I have a foundation that works with my reality, my wheel keeps moving, and then, my next thing I'm going to do after this podcast is I'm going to contact you, and I'm going to talk about how I can do one of your programs to keep adding on top of that, right?
Yeah, and for the average person, if they hear that and they go, man, I want to be just like Adnan. That's what they do, is they try on the Adnan costume.
Yes, that's right.
I got a podcast, I got to do that, and it's like trying a new recipe in your dinner.
Yeah.
Like, a recipe doesn't come about because it's a recipe. A recipe comes about because somebody has figured out all the different ways that they put these flavors together, and then they write it down for you, and you can test it out, right? But they had to go through the process of embodying that recipe. And in the same way, somebody will hear your recipe for life, like how those things come together. And they might hear my recipe for life and go, oh, okay, I'm going to try on Alex's costume, right? But there's 2 problems with that. The first problem is my costume, so to speak, is bio-individual to me. So if you I don't know, saw a picture of my abs and were like, I want abs like Alex, and then you try to do it like me, unless you and I have the same genes, then there might be some things in my process that can inform you. But the science actually teaches us that your body will respond differently to exercise and nutrition because of some of the differences in your genes, right? And the same thing for your microbiome. And then not to mention all the life you've lived. Maybe your shoulders are in a rougher spot than mine are, right? Maybe your lower back is stronger than mine, right? There's all kinds of things in your life that might have given you a unique set of obstacles. And so somebody will try on the costume, kind of like you were talking about. Oh, I believe them, I'm going to do their program. They'll try on the costume, and then if it doesn't work for them, then they get discouraged, they write it off, and they try to move on. And so what instead needs to happen is you have to understand that your life is yours, that nobody can tell you how to do it. You have an innate purpose, you have an innate build, you have an innate set of things that matter to you. You have unique experiences and obstacles that you talked about. I didn't know we shared fatherlessness and poverty in childhood, by the way. Both of those are things that I grew up in as well, so I appreciate you being real about that. And that unique set of circumstances can only be tackled one way, and that is if you're willing to look at the smallest thing you can change and do it, and then do that consistently. and then learn from that process and grow and do that consistently, and then learn from that process and grow and do that consistently, and build what's best for you. Build what's best for you and your body. And this is point number 2. This is what frustrates me so much about the nutrition and exercise world, because the marketing of the world says, look at this, see how it's helped me, see how it's changed me, see how pretty I am, see how strong I am, whatever.
Yeah.
You should do that too. And it's so crazy. There's a grain of truth to it, because you might only be a 1% step away from improving your life dramatically. But in the fitness world, they sell you the 1%, and because, the supplement or the peptide or the whatever, the cold plunge even sometimes, as long as you buy my bath. Their bath isn't good. Cold's not good unless you buy mine, right? But if they'll say that to you, and then because you spend money on it, it sticks around.
Yes.
Right? And just because it's profitable doesn't mean it's based in the science of helping you make the most out of your body. Yes. And that's the world we live in right now, is that much of the health and fitness world's marketing is not applied science to individuals. It's marketing for the sake of a product that will sell but doesn't necessarily make a big change for people.
Yeah, that's well said, man. So let's get into your ways of doing it and your philosophies and your framework. Is once your 40-day faith program. At what point do you get into understanding someone's DNA, how their body is designed, and what methods do you use to kind of do that? What tests do you do? How much you get into biology, blood tests, chemistry, molecules? Like, how do you start? Like, give us a bit of a framework into how you work with your clients.
Yeah. So imagine an everyday spy. We have individuals who consume content like this and work to make changes for themselves, and that's great. Have at it, man. And then we might have individuals who go, it'd be really great if I didn't have to do all this myself. And in fact, we see that in exercise and nutrition. If I want to make a change to benefit my body, the two most important factors of me actually executing this is, do I have a professional I trust to ask my questions? And then 2, am I a part of a community who's working toward a similar goal? Those are the 2 things that matter the most, right? And so when somebody comes from the outside of content consumption to, I'm going to invest in this. I'm going to put some money down, put my money where my mouth is. It was Jesus who said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. When you invest in something, you're more likely to do it, right? So then we actually offer what are called SpyFit challenges. SpyFit challenges range in scope from, we do SpyFit Mental Edge, which is all about tackling our mental health with regard to our exercise and nutrition. So depression, anxiety, ADHD, even cognitive dysfunctions like dementia and Alzheimer's. Then we dive into that for 8 weeks. How do we make the most out of our body in a cognitive fashion? How is that going to help me, right? And so that challenge is a little bit different from right now we're in the middle of SpyFit Muscle Builder. And the goal is, how do I use my exercise and nutrition to support healthy muscle tissue on my body? Because that's not just a vanity play. Ooh, I look muscular. There's all kinds of health and cognition benefits to having adequate muscle on your body. For instance, you might not know this. We're just learning this in the exercise science community. I think it's so cool. But our body has these little compounds called myokines, MYOKINES. And they are inherent in our muscle tissue. They're only built there. And so when you use your kettlebells and you're doing your kettlebell windmill, right? You're actually flexing the muscle and relaxing it. And like a sponge, it releases myokines into your bloodstream. Those myokines cross the blood-brain barrier and actually impact your mood. They impact your cognitive function. They even impact, strangely, your outlook on life. One of the myokines that's been isolated is called by researchers the hope molecule. Because if you inject this into people, they feel more hopeful. Isn't that crazy? Like you can exercise your way to feeling more positive about the future. Like what in the world? Anyway, so when you make that decision, then our SpyFit challenges, the programs that we build around this, allow us to have a community of individuals who are all working toward the same goal. We connect via coaching calls every week, and you can ask your personal questions as you move through the curriculum of this challenge, right? And so that's kind of the I would say the group layer of things. But then finally, and this is as deep as we can go, this is individual personalized coaching. And what I do with clients is kind of like I talked to you about there. Let's get our beliefs squared away. Why are we doing this? What's important to you? What does your body have to do with this? We dig into obstacles, so we take a full health history that includes blood work. That's all the strange things that have happened to you in your body and mind, and any medications you might be taking, so that we understand where we're at there, right? And then we go through the process of developing, if you need it, your base level of conditioning, because some people aren't working out. Some people are eating McDonald's every day, and if that's where you're starting, we got to get some nutrients in your system. We got to get you just walking every day. We got to build that, right? And then when we're ready to optimize, so for some clients that might be a couple weeks. For some clients, I've worked with clients for 2 years before it's time to say, okay, now what's specific to your genetic heritage that needs to be tweaked because you're special. And so from there, we do genetic testing. And we at Everyday Spy don't provide genetic testing. We have a company that we work with that we recommend to our clients. And so they create a whole full nutrition genome panel, and then we start connecting our exercise and nutrition practice to that to make the most out of you and what goals you're working toward. So it's really the gambit, man. Whatever you can find out about yourself, we work with it to make the most out of you.
Yeah, man, that thank you for that, because that's a very important piece. I was interacting with Bryan Johnson, the guy behind this whole don't die philosophy, and he spends about $2 million US on his body and does all the stuff. And I was sort of, kind of saying, well, not everybody can afford that. And he came back with something that kind of ignited this whole idea. And he said, well, you can, I'm trying to simplify my philosophies into something that everyday person can do. And he said, if you spend $18,000 US a year on your body or on your health, I think that's a good optimum point for you to be at. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because then I started budgeting. It's something I never do, but I always budget a holiday, always budget, go over here for dinner. I always budget spending these things, but I never budget something like, this is for my health. This budget, $18,000 a year, is for my health, right? And that kind of started this whole philosophy around you got to have some kind of, understanding about needing, how much do I have to spend on my body in today's day and age with everything that I need, whether it's buying equipment, gym membership, supplements, coaching, what programs do I have to do? It all kind of stems from prioritization, and whether it's financial, whether it's personal, it's goal. You've just had a baby, whatever that is. You've just separated, had a divorce. You want to refocus your time and your energy and your goals. But I feel like that budget became a huge thing in my mind that kind of activated a lot of that. Like, I need to do this. I need to do it properly. I need to do this, do that. And that really opened my mind into, I love my defaults, but I also want to try and have coaches, listen to other people, test other things, do different things. There's always a new craze going on. Joe Rogan was on Twitter going viral the other day because he did some kind of transfusion. He was holding a bag. I think it's plasma something. It looked like like a yellowy looking liquid that you remove all the toxins from your body. He loves eating canned fish and sardines at nighttime snacks when he's writing jokes. There's a lot of like toxic, materials in those kind of food. There's always a trend, there's always somebody's doing something. So I'm with you on that one. I want to ask though, just from a generic perspective, what are your like top recommended every morning essential supplements that people should have? Just without doing any test, without doing any specific body, like what do you recommend that people should just have that intake as a generic thing that's scientifically proven that actually adds to your body?
Supplements are such an interesting conversation because most of the people that I work with, when we first start working together, most of the nutrients that they need to get from food aren't there. They're eating nutrient poor food in general, right? And this is
huge problem, especially in the US. Huge problem. This whole Make America Healthy movement again. It's huge problem.
It's partially the fitness industry is to blame for that, because for so many years we focused on calories, and it's crazy to people to understand that calories are only a very small portion of what food actually supplies our body with, right? And this is going to sound mind-blowing to people, but your food is way more than calories, way more. Polyphenols, micronutrients, macronutrients. There's like your body, if you were a car, you're not, but if you were a car, you put fuel in, you get from point A to point B, you burn through it, and that's it. That's a car, right? And if something breaks in the engine, you got to take it to the mechanic to fix, or maybe you can try to muddle through it yourself with a YouTube video, whatever. But there you go. That's a car. Your body's different. Your body is a biological system that builds itself out of the fuel that you put into it. So not only does your fuel get you from point A to point B, but there's all this other stuff that allows the body to rejuvenate and rebuild and regrow. There's no body mechanic that doesn't like, your spleen's not operating correctly, let's just go in there and fix the cells. It doesn't happen that way, right? And so what people don't understand oftentimes, because of the fitness industry, they've been looking at their food through the lens of how many calories am I eating? And that's like 2% of the battle, bro. Like 98% of the battle, in my mind, from a nutrition perspective, and the science bears this out as we dig deeper and deeper, 98% of the battle is getting the nutrients that your body needs from the food that you're consuming. The calories will generally work itself out if you're not eating a ridiculous amount of processed garbage, right? That's the thing. That's wild, right? So when I coach clients, it takes several months of working together before we start worrying about how many calories we're consuming, because we've got to fix the nutrient problems first, right? So So to your question, digging into supplements, I always preach to my clients, I need to get your food providing the nutrients that you need, and the supplements give us opportunities to be more specific about the nutrients that you're deficient in, right? So in general, the one supplement that I recommend to literally everybody, unless they're already taking it, is magnesium bisglycinate. So magnesium bisglycinate is it's actual micronutrient most of us are deficient in. Most of us don't have enough magnesium in our diet. Even if we're consuming foods high in magnesium, most of the foods we're eating are lower in magnesium than they should be. It's hard to find it in a lot of food. And so if you've been deficient for a long time, that impacts you. It impacts your parasympathetic nervous system specifically. So how tight your muscles are, how easy it is for you to fall asleep, how quickly you recover from things are all impacted by magnesium. And bisglycinate is just the most bioavailable version of it to consume via mouth, right? So I recommend that to literally everybody I ever train in, unless there's a contraindication, which there generally is not. So there's that. In second Second, I'm a huge proponent of creatine monohydrate, and I think that that almost everybody, with the exception of pregnant women and individuals with kidney disease, would benefit from taking creatine on a regular basis. There's all kinds of schools of thought on how you cycle on and how you cycle off and how you load and how you deload and all that stuff. But in general, magnesium bisglycinate and creatine monohydrate, those are two that I recommend to just about everybody.
Oh man, yes. I love how creatine has gone out of the gym and come to everybody's like pantry. I love it. I love creatine, and one of the things that I love as well the most that I always recommend to my friends is Alpha Brain by Onnit. And I'm so huge on just like looking after the brain and like feeding the brain also supplements that it might be deficient on. To just kind of like, look after the health of your neural networks and how your brain builds and your speech and your verbal and your memorization of words and names. That I feel like, it can slow down as you age, right?
I'd actually like to speak to that. I think that's really important. So when I talk about supplements and I talk about nutrition, I want people to understand that food supplies our body the materials it needs to function. So to your point, if my brain's not getting adequate nutrients for XYZ issue, then that's going to show up somehow. Could show up in memory functional issues. It might show up in my sleep. It might show up in a bunch of different ways, right? But also, our body adapts to privation in positive ways. So for instance, I'm a big proponent of fasting, not intermittent fasting as it was marketed 12 years ago. I think peptides is the new intermittent fasting, personally, right now. give it 12 years. So anyway, the fasting as a practice means simply my metabolism is either digesting foods that I've eaten and supplying my body with nutrition from that digestion, right? Or my metabolism has a complete other side to it, which in the abundant Western world, many people haven't experienced on purpose, which is a fasted state. And in a fasted state, my body no longer has to spend a lot of energy digesting food. And unless there's some metabolic problem with you, your actual energy expenditure after 24 hours of fasting or 36 hours of fasting, your actual energy expenditure is just as high, if not higher, than when you were eating. Your body doesn't slow your metabolism down. It's got stuff to do. It takes that energy that you would have used to digest and integrate your food and points it in the direction of things like autophagy, which is the breakdown of unhealthy tissue or damaged tissue in the body by the immune system so that it can shuttle off and repair cells and organs, right? It's also an opportunity for the body to use fat as a fuel source, because when you run out of carbohydrate in your muscles, that's stored glycogen. When you run out of carbohydrate in your liver, that's stored glycogen. When you run out of carbohydrates coming from your digestive tract, then your body's like, where are we getting our energy from? And the human body is so powerful. Unless you have a genetic predisposition to be bad at creating ketones, which is a small percentage of the population, but they exist. Unless you're those people, your body's like, oh, no carbs, that's fine. Let's use body fat. And so your metabolism can actually use fat as a fuel source, right? That's a stressor, just like going for a run is a stressor, or just like lifting weights is a stressor. Those are stressors that my body can adapt to that are actually positive, good for me. And so when it comes to supplements, the name of the game isn't give my body everything it needs all the time so that I can function highly on a regular basis. There's also a flip side to this game, which is I need to deprive my body of some of the things that it really wants and needs so that it can positively adapt without having those things available. Caffeine would be a great example. I like caffeine. Do you like caffeine? I like caffeine.
I fucking love caffeine, man.
That's great. So I love caffeine.
I'm gonna have some more caffeine right now.
Do it, yeah. Pour it up, man. Pour me a glass while you're at it. So caffeine's a powerful ergogenic aid. It's vasodilating like it increases the size of your capillaries and arteries so that you can move more oxygen, right? Caffeine also blocks adenosine receptors in your brain. Adenosine, as adenosine builds up, you feel more and more tired. So caffeine actually blocks that like tired feeling that happens at the chemical level in the brain, right? So caffeine is a powerful, I won't call it a nutrient, but caffeine is a powerful additive, right? Now, sometimes if you go without caffeine and your body's so used to having it, what happens?
I usually have a 2-week crash if I cannot get off the caffeine.
Right. Your capillaries are like, what are we supposed to do? They like shrink down and you got headaches, right? You're like, you get tired. You feel like it's like a flu, right?
Yes. It's bad.
But if you can get over
Don't be around me.
if you can get past that hump, there are positive adaptations that come from going without caffeine. You're teaching your brain how to function and operate without the crutch of blocking adenosine and whatnot. And this is extremely important in our world of abundance and fitness today.
Yeah.
If I don't ever teach my body how to operate without all of the stuff I like to feed it, if I don't ever teach my body that, then what happens overall is I'm actually going to end up weaker. I'm going to adapt my body to the environment of having all of those things all the time. And so there are adaptations that are positive that come from privation. And so in that vein, that's so important. I recommend similarly those cognitive beneficial supplements that you were talking about. I recommend those, but I also recommend breaks from those things because I want my body, not because they're going to be toxic or not because I don't want them to build up in my tissues, but I want my body to know what the heck to do when it doesn't have everything given to it in this moment. And that's our bodies were built that way. They can 100% adapt positively from that.
Yeah. And I also recommend breaks from like constant trying to hack your body as well. Because one of the things that I found quite counterproductive is that people will always, have a view or an idea about how they can reduce my coffee intake, for example, right? But what they kind of always oversee is that, coffee as an Arab, as a traveler, as someone that has those kind of genes in my soul, my culture, where I'm from, coffee is such a big part of that soul feeding as well. It's not just like activating my biological stuff, but it's activating my soul, my past. Like we have so much information in our DNA that we cannot access, right? We cannot access our DNA. I would love to be at a point, but I think that coffee is one of those things that...
Well, and oh man, like what you're saying to me, what I hear is coffee is a spiritual thing for you. And, it's just, I agree. Yeah. Like I think I wrote this book on caffeine. Like I fasted, I drank lots of caffeine, and I sat down and I wrote it, right? And for me, that was a deep part of the process of communing with the divine, to say what I felt was on my heart and soul to get out of me and to give to clients and people I've connected with in my life. And that was spiritual for me. And there's nothing like sitting down to a good cup of coffee with a friend, right? So this happens in the fitness world. People will think, oh, all the things I love, I have to give them up. And it's like, no, you don't. There are some things we love that we overindulge in, and that becomes harmful to us, right?
Yeah.
But if my body's functioning well, I'll give you an example. I love carrot cake. Do you know what carrot cake is?
Yeah. I'm very lucky to not have a sweet tooth. Yes.
I don't know if I have a sweet tooth, but I love carrot cake. In fact, carrot cake might be a spiritual experience for me too, right? So carrot cake's wonderful. I'm not gonna give up carrot cake. Like I'm not giving it up. I'm not. Your coach is openly confessing he's not giving up carrot cake, and you can't make me. So there's that. Yeah. But I understand that my body needs a large amount of carbohydrates to recover from leg day. So if I want to enjoy my carrot cake without hurting myself, without putting too much stress on my pancreas, I'm not going to have carrot cake in my fridge available to me every night, because that's not going to work. I will eat too much carrot cake, but I will enjoy carrot cake on leg day. I'll go do a good leg workout. I'll put my muscles in a state that they need to recover, and I'll go sit down with my wife or whoever gets to enjoy carrot cake with me today, and we're going to enjoy carrot cake. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm not going to be guilty about it. It's actually going to help me recover from my workout, right? And that's so important for people to understand. Food is not just nutrition to us. Remember I said food is more than calories? Food is social bonding. Food is how we experience culture. Food is one of the ways we build relationships with individuals. And so it would be naive to think that I've got to biohack my body while also eliminating the things that feel deeply important to me. And so I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm sorry for the soapbox, but that I want people to understand that when you make the most out of the body you have, there are things in your life that the run-of-the-mill health and fitness advice would just tell you, oh, that's bad for you. Oh, cut it out. Get rid of that. Don't do that. Like, do this instead. And it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. You have to know you and what matters to you and what's important to you, and then you're working to make the most of that.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things about you is that you have a very realistic idea of what people can achieve, things that they can hack, but also the realities that the people live in as well, and the things that they can unlock as well. Because it took me a long time to build relationships with people who did my physical work with me, from me seeing them as intimidating and not wanting to be honest with them, to a point where I'm like, man, fuck off, man. Leave me alone. Like, leave me alone for a week. I'm gonna fucking do what I'm gonna eat that fucking carrot cake.
Stop bothering me about my bourbon, bro. Yeah.
You know, I'm eating that fucking carrot cake right now. Right? So it kind of, it sort of allows for that relationship to be honest. And I don't think, you know, it's like, you know, Dana White is a great example. He's the president of the UFC. You know, he always like jokingly talks about on podcast, his guy for all his health stuff is Gary Brecka. And he's like, oh, fucking Gary Brecka, leave me alone. I just came off a 12-week diet, and all I had to eat is steak and berries and avocado. Fuck this guy, and fucking hate my life, right? You know? So I feel like those kind of things are, you have a very nice, gentle and natural approach to kind of having that relationship, which I think is also very important in making it fun, but also making it real and making it imperfect in many ways, I think, which is also an important piece of the puzzle.
I'm glad you said that. I would attribute that to the higher faith arching, because what I understand about the body is we can idolize it easily. Like our nutrition and our biohacking and our exercise program can become its own idol, right? And even to the point that that it interferes and impacts the things that, if you really asked us, we would tell you are most important to us. Right. And so it's important to me that when I work with clients, that we understand how this fits into the bigger picture of what matters in life. Because sometimes carrot cake is what makes life worth living. So does a good cup of coffee, man. Right. And those are simple, enjoyable, great pleasures in life that can feed the body, can feed the soul, be good for us. Right. And this is where being like a trauma-informed coach is useful, because I'll have an opportunity to spend time with somebody who maybe they're managing their emotions by eating, and that's not good, right? Because they would say, I love my ice cream, stay off my ice cream. And it's like, when do you eat it? In the middle of the night when you're overwhelmed and frustrated and can't sleep? Okay, well, let's dig into that, because ice cream is enjoyable. It's a great thing in life. But if you're eating it every night to manage your emotions, that's not good for you. That's going to hurt you over time, right? And so when I work with people, my goal for them is that they can live out the things that are most important to them, while optimizing, again, the body they've been given. And science helps us to understand that, but science can't tell you why you do it, and that's the rub.
just on that, I was listening to Andrew Huberman, and he brought forward some recent new study about that kind of like relationship with food and emotional eating. And he found that it's a part of the brain that he talked about that is very tiny in obese people, and it's very large in high performing people. And it's called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, AMCC. He talked about that, and he also gave some guidance around, how you can stretch that part of the brain.
Yeah.
Right? You aware of this?
Yes.
And how do you approach it?
It's such a powerful thing, and Andrew Huberman is actually a neuroscientist, and so like this is something that he probably gets to do in his lab. So I don't get to do a lot of this research necessarily, but I'm very privy to it. The reason it matters to me as a father actually is this idea of the cycle of history, right? Hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times make weak men make hard times, right? It was actually presented by the Kuzari, which was a Middle Eastern philosopher back in the, I think, 700 AD. I might be wrong on the date, but what he noticed was this strange cycle where you see the city folk getting softer and plumper with all of their luxuries, and then the nomads surrounding the area for a couple generations are watching, and then they go take them over and kick them out, right? And then a couple generations later, that happens again in reverse, because being out in the desert, in the wilderness, makes you stronger. It just wears you out, and you get used to having little, and you start going, man, we want that city. And so he described this philosophical problem, and I think this is important as a father, because I have gone through some struggles in my life that have taught me strength and grit and values that I want to impart to my own children. But if I were to arbitrarily put them through the things I went through, I would be a monster, right? And so the question is, how do I give you this strength? How do I give you this perseverance? How do I give you, and this is true in the brain, that we have this little regulating body, the anterior cingulate cortex. The reason it's important is it's kind of seated between the emotional center of the brain and then the decision-making center of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, right? And so the anterior cingulate cortex kind of mediates the two. How do I feel right now? What am I going to do about it? Right? That's at the kind of that's the back of the napkin version of the neuroscience, but that's what's up. There's a part of our brain that has to mediate these two. How do I feel about this? What am I going to do about it, right? And so the anterior cingulate cortex actually seems to light up and to grow and to adapt when we do the things that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
So I wake up in the morning and I want to hit snooze.
Right.
Right? Right in that moment, I have an opportunity to flex my ACC. I have an opportunity right now. And it turns out that if we go with our emotion, if we go with what we feel like doing in this moment, then it doesn't grow at all. It doesn't change. It doesn't light up, right? Because I just felt my way through this. Screw it. I'm not getting up. I'm out.
Yeah.
And so the limbic brain wins. The emotional brain wins. I didn't feel like getting up, right? Yeah. Whereas prefrontal cortex, if I know what I need to be up to, then I have the opportunity for that to be mediated by the ACC. So so the way I do this with my clients is I started doing this when I was very, very young as a trainer. Actually, I would find the exercise they were scared of, the thing they didn't want to do. For many people, that turns out pull-ups, by the way. That's the number one exercise people are scared of. Oh, man,
don't start with pull-ups, man. Fucking hate them. So every time in the class, in the gym, there's a pull-up. It's like, oh, fuck, here we go. All the girls are watching. It's like,
right.
Fuck.
Dude, it's a thing. I'm so glad you confirmed it, but it's true. It's true among the population. I'm sure if we actually did a study, pull-ups would be on that list, right? And I'm not talking like people hate it. I'm talking they're afraid of it. They're
Yes,
scared of
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
very scary.
like very, very big emotional response to pull-ups. And
Yes.
why? Because,
Yeah.
well, to do it, you have to get up in front of everybody. You know, like you could be in the gym. Nobody cares, by the way. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching you do your pull-ups. But anyway, so you get up in the gym and you're on this thing, and it feels like everybody's watching you because you're towering above everybody else, right? So that's one.
Yeah.
Two, for many people, they had traumatic childhood memories of getting on the gym pull-up bar and not being able to do it, and everybody laughs at them or something, right?
Yeah.
Three, pull-ups actually a really complicated movement. Like you got to get your back involved, you got to get your arms involved, your core has to work really hard. And then four, if
Your
you're
legs have to be in a shape. Sometimes, you know.
it makes it more optimal for sure. And then four, if you're the least bit overweight, if you're 10 pounds overweight, 20 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, if you're the least bit overweight, like pull-ups are freaking hard, man. They're tough. They're not easy, right? And so I would meet with a client, and I would have their program written, and I'd be like, you know, we're going to do pull-ups and they're like, no, I'm scared of pull-ups. Like, well, good. So we're going to do them. Because if you're scared of it, if you hate it, if you're afraid of it, if it makes you angry, whatever, if it lights up your emotional brain, that's an indication that that's what the hell you need to be up to. Because that's going to strengthen the part of you that doesn't hit snooze in the morning. That's going to strengthen the part of you that will go for the run even though it's raining outside. That's going to strengthen the part of you that when you want to slap your kid up the side of the head because they said something stupid to their mom, you go, all right, buddy, let's sit down. Let's talk about what respect means. Here's how you're going to respond to your mom instead. And then I don't have to perpetuate the abusive way that my household worked, right? Like that's the part of your brain that mediates what you know is the right thing versus what you feel like, right? So I would take my clients, we would get on the pull-up thing, and we would use the assisted pull-up, and they might not even be pulling half of their body weight, but we're going to do some pull-ups, and we're going to do it every time until it's no longer scary for you, right? And if I have a client who's 100 pounds overweight, I'd say, hey, we're going to do pull-ups someday, and they're like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm telling you the truth, and all you're going to have to do is do the work. So we would do an exercise and be like, oh, this is strengthening your elbows and your back so that we can do pull-ups someday. Oh, this is strengthening your grip strength so we can do pull-ups someday. And I would keep plugging that thing so they understood that even if they were afraid, even if they thought it was something they could never do, even if they don't want to, we're going to exercise the part of the brain that teaches us how to do hard things. And so it's a deeply important part of my training. And the pull-ups are a silly example, but it's an idea, right? That there's a piece of our brain that if it's not developed, you'll never be a high performer. And you have to develop it. There's no way around it. And the only way that we understand to develop it right now is to do the things we don't feel like doing. And that's not easy.
Yes. I mean, man, I drill that in my kids every morning. Like, eat a frog, eat a frog.
Eat the frog, yeah.
Eat the frog. You don't like it, do the things you don't like first and fall in love with the things you don't like doing, man. Mm-hmm. It's such a big thing. I do want to go back to the supplements, which your response was nutrients, focus on the food that's going in your body. Mm-hmm. In New Zealand, we have this very funny viral debate going on right now because the prices of local food is higher than the important price of food because of how global economy pricing works. But what it has led to a lot of people is doing these TikTok videos where they compare a New Zealand grass-fed milk-produced butter and an American butter, and the American butter looks very white, and the New Zealand butter looks very yellow. And they break down the science behind grass-fed and the nutrients and the good things in it, the New Zealand brand versus all these yucky stuff that we're putting in our body, this is why you have RFK Jr. going crazy about making America healthy again in the Maha movement, which I think is fantastic. So what is your philosophy on food, the food intake? One thing I love doing with my kids when we make school lunches is the color. You got to make sure you choose minimum 4 to 5 different colors of food, right? Tomato, red. carrots, orange, not just everything white and brown, which is just snacks and chips and bread and and so in my mind, that's one thing that I kind of keep an eye on when I look at my food intake. I still don't like seafood, so I supplement that with fish oil supplements. And my new thing is load up on meat, grass-fed steak, red meat, and venison meat. Then load up on greens, always like a salad or something. And then load up on beef jerky, not the processed ones with sugar in it, but like real proper beef jerkies. And then load up on a lot of protein-based yogurt or just prebiotic yogurt to kind of get my gut health going.
Yeah.
That is all I eat, really. So what's your philosophy on food?
Yeah, so food is that I think it's the thing that we as an abundant society actually get to make decisions about now. Because once upon a time, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, you ate whatever you had. Like there wasn't a lot of options, right? But now you can walk into a grocery store and you can make decisions about what you're going to put in your body. And so this is really important. The first thing that's worth saying is that we're Homo sapiens, so the basic nutrition that's going to work for us is about the same, I would say about 80% of the time. Now there are ends, we call them outliers in science, but there are ends of the bell curve where because of different genetic factors, you might be an exception, right? So the vegans are a good example. There are individuals who, specifically with regard to ALA, that's an omega-3 fatty acid, their body's very, very efficient at converting ALA to EPA and DHA. That means they don't need plant sources for the fats that their nervous system require. Sorry, I said that wrong. They don't need animal sources, my bad. They don't need animal sources for the omega-3s that their bodies require because they can convert it from plants. And so for those people, the vegan diet works really great for them. The only problem is they turn it into some kind of proselytizing thing where everybody should be vegan and you're terrible if you kill animals, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the carnivores. You got the people who, genetically speaking, their bodies are very, very sensitive to some of the oxalates, for instance, in plants, right? And so they do best eating beef and eggs, great. And again, the only problem is they're proselytizing, and everybody should eat steak. But the vast majority of the population falls into the middle, where a decent amount of plant products and a decent amount of animal products would be good for us, right? Yeah. And there's some variance in there, but that's the basic thing. For me, what I generally have to teach my clients is I have to teach them to understand their food in terms of nutrient density. You're doing that with colors with your kids. It's a great example. Versus energy density, right? Jesus fed 5,000 people with loaves and fish, and in my teaching, what I teach them is think of your body as it needs energy, that would be the loaves, and it needs nutrients, that would be the fish, right? What are nutrients? Protein, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, the polyphenols that allow your immune system to work well, right? And helping people identify the difference between those two things is not easy. You can do it, but it's not easy, right? And so I teach them in macronutrients: carbohydrates, fats, proteins. What are the foods that are sources of these in your life? And what's the nutrient density versus energy density of those things? So I get to teach this to my kids all the time. They would tell you macaroni and cheese is a fat with some carbs that has no nutrients in it, but it tastes good. Yeah. And they're kids, so they eat macaroni and cheese and run it all off. They're eating me out of house and home as they grow, right? So that's fat with carbohydrates in it. Well, what is a nutrient-dense fat with some carbohydrates in it? And that would be something like seeds. Seeds are very nutrient dense. They have some carbohydrates in them, but they have all sorts of other micronutrients as a part of them, right? So sesame seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds. That's it.
Yeah.
So that's the other end of the spectrum in the energy density, nutrient density spectrum.
Yeah.
And you can do that for carbs, you can do that for fats, you can do that for proteins. And helping people identify, am I getting enough nutrients in my life? And then I can worry about whether or not I'm energizing, I'm fueling the activities that matter to me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, for me, that's the biggest piece of the pie. And then we can start getting ninja about whether or not you have the MTHFR variant and require more folate than the average person, right?
Yeah. It's really fascinating how you talk about, like, you know, getting that, like those words in your kids' minds and you know, like macaroni cheese is actually this and this, you know, carbs and this and protein, whatnot. One thing I've noticed in New Zealand, a big culture that's sort of come into play is kids as young as 8, 10-year-olds actually understand like these words. Like in New Zealand, the big trend now is protein. So it's I believe it's probably come through the protein yogurts, the suckies the kids have, the squeezable ones. We call them suckies, sucky yogurts, and you know, when my kids get hungry now and they just want to go in the pantry and look for snacks, you know, the conversation I always start with them is like, why don't you have a protein yogurt that will fill you up? That's what you need, your body needs probably. And so now my kids are all, but, oh, Dad, have you seen this protein drink? Oh, you know, it's like, you know, they always go for like, I want to have a soda. And so I'm like, well, no, we're not having soda. And so now they're like, so it's interesting how those words get into their memorization.
Yeah.
And they form meanings in their mind, which drives healthier intake of food and understanding of that connection with the faith and the body and the, you know, what I need right now and why am I feeling, you know, what is deficient in my body that I need right now. It's interesting how these words are now coming into play, that we actually converse with these words instead of like talking about, ooh, you know, and I have, you know, pasta and meatballs. Is almost like, you know, I'm having, you know, this nutrient and that carbs, and I need, you know, it's interesting how, in a very cool, fun way, it's becoming part of how we communicate about food.
Yeah, same in my house. My wife is a registered dietitian, so my kids are growing up with a master trainer and registered dietitian. And so the joke among our family is, please bring them cookies. They need some cookies. They don't.
Yeah. It's
But
starving
so
your kid
my and you know, don't worry, my kids aren't these sad, deprived little humans. So my 7-year-old, I coached a soccer team last night. We played a game of soccer and they were running on the field, you know, 100 miles an hour, right? And so he comes off the field, gets some water, and we're headed home, and it's about to be bedtime. He goes, "Hey, Dad, what can I do for my post-workout carbs tonight?" He's 7, okay? So he knows that he just wore his butt out, and it's about bedtime, and so he's going to bed, and he's hungry. And he knows that in our house, if you're going to have cookies or you're going to have candy or you're going to have a soda, right, you better sure as heck just done something intensely active to require that extra carbohydrate, right? And so, so I was like, hey, we got some sherbet in the freezer. Let's enjoy some together. So we sat down and it's set at 7:30 p.m. and we're having some sherbet, and he's had like 4 bites. I was like, are you good? Do you need any more? He goes, no, I'm good. I'm just ready for bed. So then he goes and brushes his teeth, right? And I say that because when you are a parent, you have the opportunity to teach your children how to regulate their food healthfully, right? We're not labeling foods as good or bad. We're labeling foods as, how is this useful to me right now? How does this feed me? What do I need? What is right for my body, right? And you know, I could probably get some flack on Instagram from the 20-year-olds about having sherbet in my freezer, right? But when you're teaching children that how to integrate these things in a way that's healthy for them, then yeah, you're right. This vocabulary is extremely important and useful. And again, we're in an age of abundance. Both of us grew up poor, right? So we ate what was available. But when you live in a house where what's available is whatever Dad's willing to buy, basically, then you have to have the vocabulary. You have to have the ability to understand, why would I do this and not that? Why would I do this
Right.
and not that? So you have a lot more options available to you, and you have to have a robust way to make those decisions. And then I hope, pass those on to your kids so they don't have to figure this out again. They just know how to live in a world of abundance with good health and good fitness and an intelligent way of doing things.
Yeah. Let's move on to recovery and healing. How do you kind of integrate that in your trainings and your coaching? What are the trends? What is scientifically proven as good recovery? Whether it's for me, I think my favorite one is sleep. I love to kind of get my sleep, right. And I used to be one of those that used to sleep 6 hours a week. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk mindset. We gotta, take the world forward. We gotta work more. We gotta be productive, which is cool. I have high capacity for work, and I love that. But I feel like sleep is definitely a big piece of my recovery. Mm-hmm. What's your philosophy on recovery and healing?
If you don't mind, can I pause right here and hit the boys' room, and then that way I respond without having that in my head?
Yes, go for it. Go for it. Take your time. We're back from the toilet break. So let's get into it. We're talking about, what were we talking about? Healing and recovery, right? Yep.
So it's such a good question. And actually one of the things that I'd like to make sure everybody's aware of is that if I'm going to work out, then the magic of my workout, these adaptations that I've been talking about, they happen because of rest. So the magic of your workout doesn't actually happen if there's no magic, there's science, but the actual adaptive process that changes you happens while you sleep. So when you sleep, you can get into deep sleep, which is generally very restorative to the tissues of the body. And then you can get into REM sleep, which is generally very restorative to the neural network of your body. And this is very important because if I work out and I don't get enough sleep or I get broken sleep, then the adaptations that I began to create in my workout won't see them all the way through. We can see this in teaching a client a new movement, right? And so in the exercise science world, if you take somebody who's never done, I don't know, what's a lift you like? Dumbbell snatches. Dumbbell snatches. You take it from the floor, throw it all the way overhead with good form and control, right? You teach them that, and then you only let them sleep 4 hours, and then you bring them back to do it again. Then they're not going to be any better at it the second time around. They're not going to move any more weight. They're not going to do it with any more efficiency. They're not going to move their body as well, right? Whereas if you take somebody and do a new movement with them, and then they sleep 8 hours, and you bring them back in the lab and have them do that movement, right? Not only are they going to perform the movement better with minimal coaching, but they'll actually progress. They'll be able to do it more explosively. They might be able to use a little more weight. They might do the form well without having to be cued. No, don't do your shoulder like that. Do it like this. And we've actually seen this in exercise labs. We can actually do this experiment. And so the way that works, though, is that the recovery of the body requires rest. And how I integrate that in my programs, I mean, not to beat a dead horse here, but sleep is a huge part of that. My clients tell me how much they sleep on a regular basis, and we change their program if they enter a period where they're not getting as much rest as they need, right? Because in a state like that, when I train operators, I talk about this mindset very often. We're either training for a mission, we're on mission, or recovering from a mission. That's the general mindset, right? When I'm training for a mission, sleep's non-negotiable. I am building myself up to be prepared for this thing. When I'm on mission, screw sleep. Whatever, I got stuff to do. I'm not worried about the sleep part. I sleep when I can. I'll sleep when I'm dead mentality, right? And then when I'm recovering from a mission, not only am I getting enough sleep, but I'm also probably getting more sleep than when I'm training, right? And so I help, with my clients, I help them understand, where are we right now? Are we on mission? Then, hey, we're not going to be able to sleep enough. And our training needs to reflect that. We're not going to do anything that might be injurious. We're not trying to make mad gains right now. We're just trying to maintain, right? That's an important aspect of that. And then when I'm training, I'm getting enough rest. I can really go for growth. I can really go for explosiveness. And when I'm recovering, when I'm getting rest, but it's because I'm recovering from a mission, not training. We're not pushing things hard physically right now. We're investing in recovery and rest. There's other elements of recovery too, but I'll stop talking for a second and let you chime in.
No, that's great. I mean, yeah, it's recovery is such a big part of it, and learning to kind of have that in your program. I'm curious though, have that in your program. It's really good. I'm curious, how are you measuring all of this stuff with your clients in terms of, like, you know, I think wearable tech, like, you know, Garmin watches that's studying your breathing, your stress levels, and your sleep, and the Garmin watch can actually, you know, if you put it under your pillow, can tell you how much your REM sleep was, how much your deep sleep was, and all that sort of data it's providing into an app. You know, and then you have products like 8 Sleep, the mattress, I think it's called 8. The brand's called 8, where you can have this mattress that's actually really good aligned for your sleep and your body. I was watching a viral TikTok of this lady who went to Japan and bought this $1,000 pillow, and they measure her neck and her back and her head and her weight and how she sleeps, and they custom made this pillow for her to sleep. It was perfect for her body. And I was like, this is fascinating, like all these products that kind of add to your recovery and your healing. Sauna, like I love a sauna, right? Like you know, like a herbal steam room as well. Where are you on all of this gadgets and things, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, so remember, I'm very interested in the belief of things, right?
Right.
And so what matters to me when I work with my clients is that the measures that we're taking are in alignment with the beliefs that matter for them.
Yeah.
So when I started working in the fitness industry, I loved every gadget I could get because data's great, right? Like, it's so interesting. Like, oh, look, when I do this, I get this much more deep sleep. When I do this, I get this much less deep sleep. And it's useful to have data that teaches you how what you're doing is affecting the experiment that is your body. Useful. However, I've worked with quite a few individuals that the data becomes its own trap. They are training to the data rather than training to their body. And a data doesn't tell us everything, right? So I had a guy, I worked with him for 2 years, and when we first started working together, he was wearing one of the Oura rings. Right. And the Oura ring was telling him that his sleep score was 37 out of 100, and that he was waking up multiple times a night. And he was like, this was really stressing him out, man. Like, he's like, I'm sleeping terribly.
Yeah.
And
I stopped wearing my Garmin watch because I was just too much stressed and focused on the data. Is the data correct? The data is not capturing anymore. My phone needs, my watch needs charging.
Oh my gosh,
and then I kind of went to this belief system and just find peace with that, you know, keep an eye on my feeling and my belief, you know.
You're going to love this. So what I said to him is like, hey, I'm going to do an experiment with you. I'm going to have you start taking magnesium bisglycinate just before you go to bed. I need you to stick with your 3 days a week of weight training, and I need you to take your ring off. He's like, why? And I said, just take your ring off. He goes, well, I want to see how it's affecting. I said, just do me a favor. Put the ring on the stinking dresser, and when you wake up in the morning, I want you to take a deep breath and just check in with your body. How did I sleep? Did I have any dreams? How's my body feel right now? And I don't want you to have an app for that. I just want you to check in, right? And so so he did. He did his experiment for a week. He was mad at me the whole time. He's like, I really want to see my sleep score. I think I slept great, blah, blah, blah. And so by the end of the week, I'm like, how you doing? He's like, dude, I'm sleeping so much better. Like, I feel great. I've got good energy. I'm really excited to see my sleep score. So he puts the damn ring back on, right? And he goes to bed. And he wakes up and he messaged me. He's like, damn it. I got a 38 out of 100 again. We didn't fix anything. And I was like, bro, I think what you reported last week is what's right for your body. And the Oura Ring has a lot of data from a lot of people, but it doesn't know you.
Yeah.
And what you need and what is right for your body. I said, I'm not saying anything against Oura. I'm just saying that your personal check-in with your body is way more valuable than whatever number that just gave you.
Yeah.
And that's that for me, that's extremely important.
Yeah, the
There's
sensory
lots
piece,
of
man.
tech in the world that can teach us so much about our own body, which is great.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I have to live with me. I have to feel this way. I have to make the most out of this, right? And if a number is telling me I slept poorly, but without that number, I would tell you I had great dreams, I slept good, and my body feels great, I'm ready for the day, then all the number is doing for me is pissing me off. That's what it's doing. And so where I stand with that is, if the tech is useful, if it's actually teaching us about how certain things are impacting us, if it's actually showing us data that we can act on and can augment the program, then great. But more data is not good in and of itself. Oftentimes it can actually be a detriment to the process of making the most of you.
Yeah, it's so man. Like, here's my new thing, right? I'm so much in tune with my body and my feeling that I've recently discovered. I don't know whether this is a weight thing. I need to do some more work on this. It's my new challenge, right? Because I'm setting a lot and I'm talking a lot in a podcast studio, and I'm doing other things. I'm starting to feel a bit of pain in my anus area, in my rectum area, when I get up. It's like when I release my body from, see if I'm just getting up now, I can feel a little bit of pain down there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? Am I overweight? Am I sitting for too long? I've never had this before, but I'm so confident in my body and the sensory elements that I have in my body that's actually giving me the data, so to speak, right? Being in tune with that it's so important, man. Like, it's don't get the data is great. All these tools are cool, as long as the data sets are very much personalized to you. It's learning from you. And I think AI has a lot of problems now in terms of reinforced learning. AI is not good at learning because so much of it is coming from AGI, which is just general information it's feeding it. And AI also has a problem in being very biased. You say, hey, is that good? AI says, yeah, that's good. Then you go, now, no, but actually I think it's bad. It goes, you're right, it's bad. So where do you stand with that, right? So data is becoming so much out of place, and going back to your own kind of senses and feelings and belief,
when it comes to your body, this is a paramount thing we're going to wrestle with in the next decade. AI doesn't have a body, and it's drawing information from many people who aren't in tune with their body. Therefore, some of the information that it's going to give you about your body is not experiential, it's theoretical, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you and I get out on the fitness floor, and I say, hey, Adnan, I'm gonna walk you through an exercise to help you grow your back muscles, and I convince you that this is a good exercise for your back muscles. Let's just say it's a machine row. You're gonna sit in this machine, your head and chest is gonna be up, you're gonna grab these handles, you're gonna pull your arms back, right?
Yeah.
And so you're doing the row, and from the outside in, everything looks great.
Yeah.
Like, you're not moving your head. You got some good shoulder movement, right? But if I, as your coach, put my hand in the middle of your back, and I say, hey man, your back's not working. I need you to squeeze your shoulder blades together so that you feel my hand.
Right. Yeah.
All of a sudden, your personal experience in this exercise changes completely. Now you have a different focus. Now you have a different feeling. Now you have a different understanding. And it was in a split second of human connection. It was in a split second of tuning into your body and feeling what was supposed to be felt, right? And that's something that information can't do for us. And that's something that AI can't do for us. That's something that the tech can't do for us, right? There was a big craze about getting 10,000 steps a day for a long time. And great, 10,000 steps a day is correlated with having, more longevity. Awesome. Walk more. Great. Love it.
Yeah.
But I had people who were so obsessed with getting their 10,000 steps in a day that after traveling all day, working their butt off, being there for their family and stuff, they're up at 9:30 at night trying to get 5,000 steps around the block so that they can go to bed with their trophy. And I'm like, bro, I need you to be smarter than your watch. I need you to understand your experience here. So the
Come back
the
to
tech
reality.
is great.
Stop.
But it can give us things that aren't useful to the human experience while we're even trying to benefit ourselves.
Yeah. Great point. I want to move to my final topic, and then we can wrap it up. It's been such a fascinating chat. We almost sort of clocked 2 hours. Peptides is sort of the talk of the week. Everyone's talking about peptides, and I think Ozempic and weight loss stuff has been around for a few months, but peptide seems to have come on, and it's come on mainly around why they have been banned. There's something going on with in America around that. And also, I'm starting to see a lot of people talk about why growth hormones through peptides is a much more better way to injecting testosterone in your body, and how injecting testosterone in your body stops the natural process of testosterone, because your body tells you have enough testosterone, so you don't have to produce it, and there are side effects to that. Can we talk about peptides and weight loss, and what are the right combinations to use it? Is it a good thing?
Such a good question. It's actually a giant can of worms right now, and I'm happy to talk about it because I think it's important. It's a flavor of the industry right now because there's a lot of money in it, and so this is important for people to understand. The medical production of peptides and usage of peptides has been around for over a decade,
right?
But you haven't heard of it. Like in 2010, nobody was talking about peptides, right?
Yeah.
But people were using the first semaglutides. The actual peptide, Ozempic is a semaglutide. The actual peptides that were in use at the time were actually regularly prescribed to diabetics. So these have been around for a while, very, very well studied with regard to diabetes, with regard to dealing with the symptoms related to diabetes. But those aren't the only peptides. So let's define peptides. Peptides are a chemical messenger made out of amino acids that goes through the body telling certain parts of your body what to do, right? So a semaglutide is a peptide that tells your pancreas to release more insulin. Your body tells your pancreas to release more insulin all by itself, but the pancreas is making the insulin, right? And so we used to treat diabetes. In fact, we do still today. We treat diabetes by giving you insulin to put in your system.
Yes.
A peptide was going a step back in the process and just saying, okay, well, your pancreas could make insulin if something would tell it to. So we're going to use a peptide so that your body can naturally produce its own insulin and do that. Same thing with the testosterone peptides right now, right? So when you inject testosterone, like you said, you're increasing the amount of testosterone in your bloodstream, but you're taking your gonads out of the process. It's just there. It's just floating around. So you get the benefits of testosterone, right? But your gonads get used to not making as much. And so then when you come off of testosterone replacement therapy, it's not like they kickstart. They're like, this is your new normal, right? So peptides are messengers that trigger certain processes in the body. And so good, bad, or indifferent, here's what people need to know. Today, if you are using peptides, you are making your own personal experiment as a human guinea pig.
Right.
And that's important. Peptides are a chemical messenger that can tell your body to do things.
Right.
But how well studied have they been in various populations? I mean, the most well studied ones are the semaglutides.
Right.
And that was only 10 years ago. We don't know what it looks like to do semaglutides for more than 10 years. We don't know what happens to bone density. We don't know what happens to muscle mass. We don't know what happens to cognitive function. For all we know, they could cause cancer. And I'm not saying they cause cancer. I'm just saying that when you change the chemical makeup of your body with something exogenous, we don't know what the side effects, we don't know what the long-term effects are. So I read a recent case study where a guy was doing 3 different peptides, one for growth hormone, one for muscle growth, and then one for tendon and ligament health.
Yeah.
And he's been using these peptides for a year and a half. He's had great experience. He's lost something like 20 pounds of fat. He's gained about 16 pounds of muscle. He feels great. He looks great, right? He started developing psoriasis, which is like a skin rash. It's an inflammatory response that attacks the skin. And it's flaky and it's painful, and he'd never wrestled with psoriasis before, right? And so he went to the doctor and got a blood test. And it turns out he had the bacteria, Streptococcus, floating around in his bloodstream. But he didn't have any of the symptoms of an infection. He didn't have a fever. His white blood cell count hadn't gone up. Like, he didn't have any of the symptoms. And so it's like, oh my gosh, you have a major infection right now. We need to get you on this antibiotic. We need you to do this. Have you been exposed to strep? And he's like, well, 3 months ago, my wife and kids did. But I didn't have any symptoms. I just thought I beat it, you know? And it's like, no, the peptides that you're taking have masked all the symptoms of the infection. And so he was actually in a life-threatening situation because of something as simple as strep throat, because he had all these peptides in his system, and nobody knows what that does to your immune response to strep. We don't know.
Yeah.
And so wouldn't that suck to die of strep because you didn't know you had it? Like I feel like you get a sore throat, you go to the doctor and say, hey, I need some antibiotics, and they hook you up and you're good, right? But right now in our world today, it's very interesting. We have, if you have the capacity to pay for it, people have the capacity to make it for you. We have the opportunity to make ourselves human guinea pigs with how much muscle we can grow and how much testosterone we can have. And what people are finding out, and some of them the hard way, is that changing the chemical process that your body goes through can have all sorts of ramifications downstream, especially in the long term. So what I would say is, if you're interested in peptides, find a professional who you trust, who's been prescribing these, and also works with a compounding pharmacy that's third-party tested, so what you're actually injecting into yourself is actually what they say that you're injecting into yourself. And then watch your blood work very closely. Right. Because you don't know how these things are going to impact you in the long term. And then for my clients, I work with several clients who are on tirzepatide, which is kind of that would be the step up from semaglutide. It's the next generation. Doesn't quite require as much GLP-1 because it pairs it with GIP. So it's a little less hard on the pancreas as far as the research looks like. But I'm working with these individuals for weight loss, right? And what's important to me as a coach is we're not injecting ourselves and then losing a whole bunch of weight and then going about our lives.
Yeah.
I want my clients to have built habits into their body that are healthy for them.
Yeah.
So if I lose weight rapidly without changing my nutrition habits, I lose muscle mass. It's not good for me. I lose bone density. That's not good for me. If I lose weight rapidly without weight training, I lose capacity even though I weigh less, right? And so for my clients, when I work with them and they're asking about peptides, the goal is, let's build healthy habits that are good for your body, that have been good for your body for 10,000 years. Let's build those healthy habits, and then use peptides as an opportunity to optimize with oversight. And that's what I would recommend to people. Just understand, you're making yourself a guinea pig. and you need to keep good tabs on that experiment. Otherwise, you might find some negative ramifications that you didn't want and didn't expect, and will be very rough on you.
Awesome, man. Thank you for that. This has been so much fun, Coach Alex. This has been great. I think one of the things that I am big about is I think maybe 2 years ago, I stopped going to my GP, my general practitioner doctor, to get general health advice. I stopped doing that because I feel like these guys are always constantly, the only solution they have is they will prescribe you medicine, right? Mm-hmm. And, but there is so much more to it. And I've sort of, aligned myself more to people like yourself and actually going to experts, whether it's peptides or whether it's TRT or whether it's just, belief-based coaching or anything that is. I feel like I'm better off and my life is better off by doing that. So thanks for this, man. And just wrapping it up, how are things at Everyday Spy? What are you working on? What's exciting? How can people reach out to you? Any programs, books? Tell me a little bit about the latest from Everyday Spy.
Yeah, Everyday Spy's going fantastic. I love that Andrew Bustamante just released, he didn't release, he was a part of a project through the Discovery Channel releasing modern conspiracy theories. And so I've found that whole thing very fast. I get to train him, which is excellent, but I'm like, oh yeah, let's talk about the guy who shot Trump. Let's talk about COVID and all the things there. And he brings he's such a down-to-earth guy, but he's so smart about how he brings what he learned in the CIA to everyday people, Everyday Spy, and lets you kind of level up in that way. So he's got a new book out, which I think is great. That keeps the spy tribe moving forward and breaking barriers. And we also have a very cool event coming up at the end of the year for those who are involved at the deepest levels at Everyday Spy. And we've got a link for you, so you can get started if you're not connected to Everyday Spy by finding out what your spy superpower is by following that link, and that would be a good start.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And there's also I was talking to Trevor Fortner, your colleague, and he was telling me on the podcast that you guys are launching Everyday War, which is like an extension of your Everyday Spy brand. And given his former Navy SEAL background and what he was talking about, I was like, wow, you guys are on fire now, and that's exciting as well. So hopefully I get to work with him. We've started a conversation. Hopefully I can get to work with him in terms of getting that going on my podcast and talking more about it. So it's super exciting, man. So quickly, where can people find you, connect with you? I know there's everydayspy.com. Is that the best way to reach out to you? Or are you on socials? Are you active anywhere that people can follow your content and your advice and everything you talk about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to get into our challenges and coaching, Everyday Spy is the best way to get connected to that. If you're interested in the work that I do from a faith-based coaching perspective, you can find all of our stuff at faithfulfitness.org, and you can also pick up my book, and that's the link that you've got in your show notes too.
Awesome, man. Well, Coach Alex, thanks a lot for coming on. It's been super fun, and I would love to have you back on, man. Anytime you've got anything to talk about, reach out to me, and I'd love to do this again. Thank you very much.
That sounds great, Adnan. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, everyone.